Yo guys, Gluten-Free EDC here. I'm Brian, your gluten-sensitive representative. Today I have a very special knife from my own collection, the Shamwari from Gareth Bull Knives. This is a really special one to me. I love this knife. I know there's a lot of hype about this knife in the knife community, and I think there's good reason for that. So first off, before we dive in, I want to kind of break down what Shamwari is. So Shamwari is a Shona word meaning friend or not enemy. And Shona, it refers to a member of a group of peoples of South Africa, mainly spoken in Zimbabwe, and Gareth Bull Knives is based out of South Africa. Shona is of the Bantu language. So yeah, I'm not 100% sure on the history and background of that all, and I don't want to dive too deep for that reason. But suffice to say, it means friend. This knife is meant to be your friend for EDC tasks. It's just meant to be on you at all times. I think that's the meaning they were going for. Maybe that's me reading into it a bit much, but that definitely would make sense to me because this knife is a true EDC champion. Now, I'm going to flip it over. So immediately you can see that this knife, it's fairly ergonomic. And in that, I mean the ergonomics are neutral, meaning it's very practical for anyone to pick up and feel that it is comfortable, easy to hold, easy to get a grip of. Now, what you might say upon initial looking over the knife that it's pill-shaped, not much to it. However, although this line is flat up here, down here, it does angle ever so slightly down this way, right? So it makes the butt of the knife ever so slightly larger, which is cool. It helps fill the palm of your hand. You also have, it's rounded at the butt and rounded at the top. That just feels nice in the hand, especially at the butt, because that goes into your palm. That's really nice. As well as neutral ergonomics, you can see, so this is a titanium scale. They do what's referred to as an armor blast finish. So the armor blast finish is much like a Zerblast, but it makes for a very consistent and durable finish. It's really nice, super smooth to the touch, does not scratch easily. Just overall, really nice finish. Along the outside, you can see chamfering. And that continues all throughout. Down here, gets fairly thin. Up to here, and then you see it tapers out. Now the top has no chamfering. I think that helps with ergos to have some of it not chamfered. But regardless, it's a bit more sharp at the top as a result. But that's going to be filling your hand. You don't feel it as sharp. It is a fairly thin knife overall, we'll get to momentarily. So before we do, you see titanium hardware. So this is a titanium pivot collar and titanium pivot screw countersunk into the scale itself. Really nice. And then if you go down to the single body screw, that's countersunk as well and rounded. It's really cool. There's just the pivot and the body screw as well as on the other side. The body screw leads into, this is really cool. So this is the body screw, the barrel. So instead of a backspacer, they went this route. I believe they've had renditions of this that were smaller earlier on in their older knives. They made an enlarged version. So if you see, the outside touching the scale is larger. I assume the reasoning for that is going to be to increase surface area that it touches the scale, thereby making the scale overall more durable, more stable. So I believe the idea is by having an enlarged barrel here, it's providing more stability. Really, really cool idea. And I think you're just going to kind of see that throughout. There's this theme of just everything is really well thought out. That takes us to the pocket clip. This pocket clip, man, this is how pocket clips are meant to be. This is how they should be done. You can see everything's flush in here. And then everything's rounded. So when you go into the pocket clip, see it kind of scoops around, and I purposely brought a pen. So you could see everything really rounds there, which is very nice. So anything going in, there's nothing to catch on, no hardware. Now you can see the screw in there, that actually is rounded as well. There's nothing that is gonna catch on this pocket clip internally. Really nice. It's a milled pocket clip. You see that it's got a chamfer on either side. This sticks up kind of at a pretty intense angle. They round it at the tip though. And I don't feel it in my palm when I'm gripping as tight as I can. I don't feel that. Great spring to it. Great retention. Just a perfect pocket clip. I think it's just really well executed. Very deep carry too. So you only have maybe that much sticking up out of your pocket. It's crazy. It's really nice. So then we go over to the beauty that I'm sure no one's missing. This is the spirograph. It's actually the overtravel stop. So although it's used on the pivot, it doubles as that overtravel stop. And really, they went out of their way. So you can get a bullseye style one, which is circles. And they milled circles into it, concentric circles, if you will. But this one is a little more special, the spirograph. I'm gonna try and get up nice and close. Really, really nice. Now, you look at this and probably are thinking, okay, handmade knife, clearly this must be machined, but you would be wrong. This entire knife was made by hand, the spirograph included. Jason actually takes pride in milling that out using a jig of some sort, so he's able to pull the lever down, it drills in, then he moves it at some specified increment over and over so he can maneuver the pivot collar, or the pivot, I'm sorry, and mill down and just keep going at specified increments. It's impressive. He actually has a little video on this on his Instagram, on Gareth Bull Knives Instagram. There's a video of Jason doing just that. Really, really awesome. Now on this, the show side, although you could argue that this is the show side, but we'll call this the lock side, this the show side. On this side, you'll see there is this cutout here for a single finger choil. This additional cutout is for access to the lock bar. But this actually does continue in one consistent arc on the other side when we see the lock bar. And before we open her up, let's look at this flipper tab. So it's flush here, and it's flush up here. So all that's really showing is that little nib. It's very minimal. This flipper tab is very minimal. It is a front flipper, and it has very aggressive jimping. Now, the jimping is aggressive because of how minimal it is. You can see it's rounded off here. So this is where them thinking things through as intensely as they can pays off. So it's rounded off here. You're above the rounding. That jimping is very fine. A lot of people will complain that it's sharp. And it's sharp for sure. You could see the jimping does indeed come to fine tips. However, it's not deep, and they grouped it together, the jimps, so they're tight together. So you can't actually have too much of your flesh go into those jimps. So although it's sharp, you're not going to hurt yourself or cut yourself per se. I'm sure someone's done it, but you know. The intention behind there with having the close jimping tight together and having it be more shallow rather than deep means it'll still catch, but it won't really dig too deep into you. And that makes for a fantastic deployment. You can deploy the knife by thumb, normal. I think that's like the normal intended way. You can do it with your index finger, just like where you would place your thumb. Then you can do that reach around over the top. You can deploy it anyway. This one is running on washers, so it makes for a very smooth close. Still unbelievably snappy though. They do offer a version with bearings. I believe they use skiff bearings. And I've handled those, they're amazing. But the washers, it's phosphor bronze washers, so it makes for a fantastic washer system. The detent, before we talk about this blade, the detent is fairly light, but really crisp. The lock bar pressure is perfect. It's not light, it's not heavy, it's on the lighter side, more towards medium. Really good lock bar pressure. And while we're there, we might as well show you, right? So there's that bit of the lock bar. So it does make for a consistent arc for that choil. Really, really nice. And there is a relief there. One other thing I do want to note is the relief cut. So this relief cut, it goes into, it's on the outside. So the relief cut is in the lock bar, but then they cut out some of, if we can kind of get in there, they cut out some of the scale as well. I believe that is purely for aesthetics, meaning they did it so it's not just up to the 90-degree when it meets the scale, where the lock bar meets the rest of the scale. I just love that touch. Really cool to see that. Now, great lockup you can see. Again, nice, light lock bar pressure. Makes for a great deployment. Now, let's focus on this blade for a second because it requires some time to itself. My goodness. So first off, we have the logo. That logo is a stylized signature of Gareth Bull Knives, right? Beautiful logo. I think that's just a really cool logo, honestly, to go with. Then you have this awesome blade shape. The blade shape on a Shamwari comes in two different kinds. There's a drop point, and what this is a checka blade shape. So on this one, you have a nice bit of belly, swoops up ever so slightly. Beautiful hand rubbed finish. It's almost mirror-like. It's beautiful. It's hard to catch it on the camera as a result. Then you have polished flats, polished swedge that goes all the way to the tip of the knife, and then beautifully crowned spine. And it's hard to make out, but oh my goodness, in person this is gorgeous. It took so much time with this knife. The blade is just immaculate. It's a beautiful blade. And you see it, the tip goes down, and you can see it goes down further than maybe a drop point would, making for this more sheep's foot type blade. Really, really something else. I love the blade shape. It makes for a great EDC tool, especially for what I need it for, like opening packages and whatnot. It's got an amazingly hollow grind. The hollow grind just makes this thing so slicey. And then very thin behind the edge, and they put an absolutely awesomely thin secondary bevel to sharpen it with. It's fantastic. It's gorgeous. Great slicer. Last but not least, I also want to go over the acoustics. I don't usually do this, but I love that like ting that it does. The acoustics on the thing are just it's so good. Yeah, didn't know I liked that about many knives, but apparently this one I love it. So yeah, overall, really fantastic knife. I think lockup's awesome. No blade play, up and down, side to side. It's really good. There's a bit, admittedly, in, I believe it's referred to as detent lash. There's ever so slightly some. If I hit it all the way on the outside, then as soon as I go to here, it stops. I can't get it to do it. But other than that, it's amazing. This knife is so good. Now, I want to share one other thing. Steve, if you're watching, you're going to kill me. All right, to be fully transparent, I had to stop the video short, so I am re-recording this section as a separate video that will be attached, so that's why things are a little different looking right now. But what I wanted to go into was this special knife. This is the 2.75 inch Shamwari with a zirconium spirograph overtravel stop. Let's just take a minute to look at how gorgeous that is. I mean, come on. Whew. It's also got zirconium hardware. The same hardware and everything that the other Shamwari had, right? And, oh my goodness, again, that armor blast finish that they do, I believe it's some sort of like a zirconium or zerblast finish. It's so good. So durable. I carry this one a ton, but you can see them side by side, lined up at the pivot. It's really, really fantastic. So, same checka blade shape on this one. Again, a gorgeous, gorgeous finish. The hand rubs they do are so amazing with the polished flats, polished spine. Oh my goodness. This one's running on washers as well. So let's get a close-up of the blades. Very similar, 3-inch to 2.75 inch. Smaller in just every regard, right? Height, width, length. Very cool. Spirograph. Ever so smaller. Just every aspect is shrunken down. Still fantastic grip. For me, small hands. Medium-sized glove, but small hands. Still get 4-finger purchase. The action is still ridiculous. They just get that snap so amazing. It's just crazy. And just lay them down side by side. Really, really something else. if you can get either of these knives in your collection, have at it. I think they're both fantastic EDCs. The thinness of these knives, whew, man, oh man, is it wild. They just get such a thin knife. Amazing clip. Very deep carry. Not too pokey to me. It looks like it points up, but they're both rounded off, so it's not sharp there. It does go into your palm when you're gripping it, but nothing horrible. The tolerances around everything is ridiculous. And you can see both these guys, I'm trying to do it as best I can in tandem. It's just so good. Couldn't recommend these knives enough. They're perfect EDC. The hollow ground on this one, although I haven't used this knife, and I'm gonna mark it up, wildly thin. It gets amazingly thin, and then they put a razor sharp edge on it. This one I've used and can say it's perfect for EDC. Super thin, hollow grind. Behind the edge is, whew, amazing. One of the sharper knives that you get from a maker, hands down. Unbelievably usable. Really cool. Like I said, they really are doing everything the same. Even on this guy, they have the oversized spacer. This one, of course, is in zirconium. So cool. So cool. These knives are just fantastic, guys. I think not too much more I could say about the 2.75 inch versus the 3 inch. They're just fantastic knives. They're very light because they're so thin. You don't even feel them in the pocket. They carry amazing. These clips, I can't tell you enough. These clips are perfect. The only other clip that I've liked as much is maybe the one on the Roosevelt by Oz Machine Co. That knife isn't really for me personally, just the ergos of the knife, the blade shape, but that is an amazing knife though. I'm not saying anything bad about that knife. That's probably the only other clip that I would say that really compares. There's the clip on the Fief 20, which is, I think, really good as well. Bit different of a style. But yeah. Check these guys out if you haven't. They're on Facebook. They have an amazing group. They're on Instagram. They're posting really cool stuff. They have that video of how they actually mill out these wild looking spirographs by hand, guys. By hand. This entire knife is made by hand. Look at this. It's utter perfection. So cool to have these in my collection. I love these knives. Anyway, that'll be it, guys. I hope you've enjoyed me gushing over some knives in my collection. They do come in bearings, so you can get these knives with bearings rather than washers. They drop shut, they're super smooth, really cool. I dig the washers personally. I've tried the bearings. I'm not sure which I 100% prefer. As of right now, I've only seen the spirograph, other than like the even more high-end builds. I've only seen the spirograph on washers with the 3 inch and the 2.75 inch, so no brainer for me. But yeah, give them a try, guys. Oh, they're using skiff bearings now when they're doing the bearings. I'm not sure who does their washers, but just something to note. Oh my goodness, guys, look at that. All right, guys, it's been real. Hope you've enjoyed. Take care.